The night was alive with fear. The forest shook with the sound of heavy footsteps, claws scraping against stone, and the deep growls of creatures that did not belong to any human world. The alien girl ran, her breath sharp and painful, her legs weak but still moving. She could feel the heat of the monsters behind her, smell the sour air of their hunger, hear the crack of trees breaking under their weight. Her eyes glowed faintly in the dark, her silver hair tangled across her face. She stumbled, but did not stop. If she stopped, she would die. If she stopped, the monsters would tear her apart before she could scream. Her heart beat like a drum, faster, louder, desperate. Every shadow in the forest looked like another monster waiting. Every sound made her flinch. She wanted to cry, but her tears were dry. Her people had betrayed her, offered her as a sacrifice to the monsters so they could survive another year. She had run when no one else dared to. Now she was alone, hunted and almost broken. The ground cut her feet. Her hands bled as she pushed through sharp branches. Her body was trembling with exhaustion. Her lips whispered one word again and again, though no one could hear it. Help! 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 But no one came. Only the monsters came, their glowing red eyes lighting the dark like torches of death. They were close now, too close. She could feel their hunger wrapping around her like chains. Her foot slipped on wet earth and she fell, rolling down a slope until her body crashed against a wooden wall. The old shed creaked under her weight. Dust falling, wood groaning. She crawled inside, pulling her body into the shadows, holding her breath. She pressed her back against the wall, praying the monsters would pass by. The night was silent for a moment. Too silent. She could hear her heartbeat. She could hear her fear. And then, a small sound, soft and strange. Not a growl, not a hiss, but a gentle snort, followed by the scratch of tiny paws. The alien girl froze, her wide eyes searching the dark. Out of the shadows waddled a small creature, its body round, its face flat and wrinkled. It had big brown eyes, a curly tail, and it tilted its head at her. It was not a monster. It was not a threat. It was a dog. The little pug sniffed the air, then walked right up to her. It touched her shaking hand with its wet nose and licked the blood on her fingers. For the first time in many nights, the alien girl felt warmth. Her body shook with silent sobs and she pulled the pug close. The little creature curled against her chest, soft and calm, as if protecting her. The monster's steps thundered past outside, shaking the shed. The alien girl held her breath again, clutching the dog like a shield. The pug stayed quiet, its warm body pressed against her. The monsters sniffed, growled, and then moved on, their heavy bodies fading into the distance. She exhaled slowly, her tears wetting the pug's fur. She whispered something in her broken voice, a thank you, a prayer, maybe both. The pug only snorted again and pushed its face against her. It was the first kindness she had felt since her escape. The first moment she was not completely alone. Exhaustion washed over her like a heavy wave. She curled up with the pug on the cold wooden floor, her arms tight around the little dog. For a few short hours, she let sleep take her. Her dreams were dark and full of fear. But the warmth of the pug kept her alive through the night. The forest outside was not silent. The monsters were still hunting. The alien girl's time was not safe, not yet. But for that one night, she had found something to hold on to, something worth surviving for. The first light of dawn crept into the shed, soft and golden. The alien girl stirred, her eyes opening slowly. The pug yawned, stretching its tiny legs. She smiled weakly, her face pale but softer than before. And then the wooden door of the shed creaked open. A tall shadow filled the entrance, the light outlining his frame. A human stood there staring at the strange silver-haired girl curled up with his pug. His eyes widened, his breath caught. He did not understand what he was seeing, but he knew one thing. Nothing in his life would ever be the same again. The wooden door groaned as it opened wider. Morning light spilled into the shed, cutting through the dust and shadows. The young man froze at the entrance, his hand still gripping the old handle. His eyes narrowed in disbelief. For on the cold floor lay his pug, curled up tight with something that was not human. The girl stirred, her silver hair glinting faintly in the sun, her skin pale and marked with scratches, her clothes torn and strange. Her arms were wrapped around the pug as though she had known him forever. The dog looked up at its master and wagged its little tail, but did not move away from her embrace. The boy blinked, rubbing his eyes as if the image before him might vanish. He had expected maybe a thief hiding or a wild animal trapped, but not this. Not an alien girl lying weak and trembling, clutching his dog like a lifeline. His voice came out soft, half-whispered. What are you?" The girl's eyes opened slowly, wide and fearful, glowing faintly with a color that did not belong to this earth. She gasped, pulling the pug closer, her body shaking as if she expected pain. The boy raised his hands quickly, trying to show he meant no harm. "Hey, easy, I won't hurt you." He took a cautious step inside, the wooden floor creaking beneath his boots. The pug yapped once, not in warning but in greeting, tail thumping the floor. The boy frowned at his dog, confused. "You trust her? Really?" The little creature barked again and licked the girl's hand as if answering. The girl's lips moved, broken words escaping. No hurt. Please don't." Her accent was strange, her tongue struggling with the shape of human speech, but her fear was clear. The boy knelt slowly, lowering himself to her level. "You're hurt. Look at you. You can't stay here like this." He wanted to ask 1,000 questions. Who was she? Where had she come from? Why did his dog protect her instead of barking? But he could see the truth in her trembling body. She was running from something worse than him, and whatever it was close. He reached for her arm gently, but she flinched back, pressing herself against the wall. The boy sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. "All right, fine. Stay there." He stood and fetched a blanket from the corner of the shed, draping it carefully over her. The girl stared at him, her eyes wide, as though she did not understand kindness. The pug barked happily, jumping into the boy's arms, then back down to the girl, as if bridging the space between them. The boy almost laughed, shaking his head. "You always bring trouble, don't you?" He looked outside nervously, scanning the trees. That was when he saw them, footprints in the mud, larger than any animal he knew, deep and heavy, claw marks dragging through the soil. His stomach turned cold. Something had been here during the night, circling his land, something that was still hunting. He returned to the shed quickly, his voice tight. "Listen. Whoever you are, whatever you are, they're coming back, aren't they?" The girl lowered her head, her fingers clenching the blanket. Her broken voice whispered, "Monsters. They hunt me. Never stop." Her eyes glistened with tears, her body shrinking smaller with every word. The boy felt a chill crawl up his spine. He had heard strange noises before, deep in the forest, but he had never seen tracks like this. Now the truth stood in front of him. This girl was not from here, and something terrifying wanted her. He swallowed hard. "If they find you here, they'll find me too." The girl looked at him then, her eyes pleading, fragile. It was not just fear in her gaze. It was a desperate hope. She did not say the words, but he understood. She was asking him for something he had never been asked before. To protect her. The boy closed his eyes for a moment. Breathing in, he could turn her out. Let the forest take her, pretend this morning never happened, but his dog, his loyal little pug, had already made its choice. The pug sat beside the girl, pressing its body against her leg, refusing to leave. The boy muttered, "You've really trapped me now." He helped her stand, though her legs shook under her. She was lighter than he expected, weak from hunger and exhaustion. He guided her into the house, glancing back at the woods every few seconds. The morning sun was bright, but it gave him no comfort. He knew danger was watching, even if he couldn't see it. Inside, he set her in a chair, offered water, bread, anything he had. She ate slowly, carefully, as though she had not touched food in days. The pug curled at her feet, guarding her with soft snores. For the first time, the boy saw her not as a strange creature, but as someone lost, broken, someone in need. But outside, beyond the quiet walls of his home, the forest stirred. The monsters had not given up. They were close, too close. The boy froze as a low growl drifted through the air, echoing across the yard, rattling the window glass. The girl's hands gripped the edge of the table, her eyes wide with terror. The pug lifted its head, ears twitching, ready to bark. The boy felt his blood run cold. The safety of his home was already gone. The hunt had followed her here, and now it had found him too. The house was quiet, but it was not peace. The boy sat at the table, staring at the strange girl who now sat across from him, wrapped in his old blanket, her eyes lowered, her silver hair falling over her face. The pug snored softly at her feet, as if the little dog had already accepted her as family. The boy did not know what to say, his thoughts racing. She was not human, that much was clear, but she was not a monster either. Her skin was pale, glowing faintly under the light. Her hands, trembling as they held the cup of water he had given her. Her lips tried to form words, but the sentences broke halfway. "You... safe... here?" she asked, her voice low, uncertain. The boy rubbed his chin, uneasy. "Safe? Not exactly. Not with those things outside." Her eyes widened, fear flashing through them. She looked toward the window, as if she could still hear the growls of the monsters beyond the trees. The boy sighed, leaning back. "Listen, I don't know who you are or why they want you, but if you stay here, I need to understand at least something." The girl hesitated, then shook her head slowly. "Bad. Talk, did they hear? They come." Her words were broken, but her meaning was clear. She could not explain everything. Not yet. The monsters were always listening, always hunting. The pug lifted its head, sniffed the air, then rested again. The boy noticed how the little dog stayed pressed against her, as if guarding her from shadows only he could sense. Strange, he thought. His pug never trusted strangers so easily, but with her, it was different. Almost like the dog understood something. He didn't. The girl reached down, her fingers brushing the pug's soft ears. Her lips curved into the faintest smile, weak but real. The boy's heart tightened, for in that moment she did not look like a creature from another world. She looked like a lost child trying to find comfort in something small and kind. He pushed a plate of bread toward her. "Eat, you need strength." She blinked, then nodded, taking a piece carefully. She chewed slowly, as though learning the taste of earth food for the first time. The boy almost smiled. Not exactly a royal meal, but it'll do. She tilted her head, not understanding, but the sound of his lighter tone seemed to ease her. Hours passed, the morning sun climbing higher. But unease lingered in the boy's chest. Every time a branch cracked outside, he stiffened. Every time the wind howled, the girl's hands shook. The monsters were not gone, not truly. They were waiting, circling, searching. The boy tried to distract himself. "So, do you have a name?" The girl hesitated, her lips forming shapes. Finally, she whispered, "Lyra." The boy repeated softly, "Lyra. All right. I'm Daniel." The pug barked once, as if reminding them he was part of this too. Daniel chuckled, patting its head. "And this troublemaker is Max." Lyra tilted her head again, her eyes flicking from Daniel to the pug. Her voice, weak but curious. "Family?" Daniel paused at the word, then nodded slowly. "Yeah, family." Her eyes softened at the sound, as if the word itself carried a meaning she longed for. The hours turned into afternoon. Daniel showed her how to drink tea, how to wrap the blanket tighter, how to wash her hands in the sink. Every small thing was strange to her, yet she learned quickly, her broken words growing clearer with each attempt. Max followed her everywhere, his little paws clicking against the floor. Sometimes Lyra giggled softly at his clumsy movements. The sound fragile but real, Daniel noticed, and a thought tugged at his heart. If she could laugh even a little, then maybe she could heal. Maybe she wasn't just a hunted alien girl, maybe she was someone who could belong. But night was coming, again, and night meant danger. The forest outside grew darker, the air heavier. Daniel closed the windows tight, lit a lamp, and kept the shotgun near. He had never felt the weight of responsibility like this before. It was no longer just him and his dog. Now there was her. Lyra sat by the fire, her eyes reflecting the flames, her voice soft, trembling. "You help?" "Why?" Daniel looked at her, unable to answer right away. Why indeed? He could have sent her away, could have avoided this mess. But when he saw her curled up with Max in that shed, fragile and broken, something inside him refused to abandon her. Finally, he said, "Because you're not a monster. And because he pointed at Max, chose you." Her lips trembled, her eyes wet with silent tears. She whispered almost to herself, "First time. Someone stay." Daniel looked away, his throat tight. He didn't know her story, yet, but he could feel the weight of it pressing between every word. Outside, a sound echoed, faint but sharp. A howl, deep and terrible. Lyra stiffened. Max growled, his little body bristling. Daniel's hand tightened on the shotgun, his pulse quickening. The monsters had not given up. They were closer now, much closer. Lyra's voice broke in fear. "They find us." Daniel shook his head, though his heart pounded. "Not tonight, not if I can help it." But even as he spoke, he knew the truth. This fragile bond, this strange connection they had begun to build, it would be tested by shadows that wanted to rip it apart. And as the fire burned low, the growls outside grew louder, circling, waiting. The night was only just beginning. The night pressed heavy against the house. The fire in the hearth burned low, casting long shadows across the walls. Daniel sat with the shotgun across his knees, listening. Every crack of the forest outside made his grip tighten. Every howl in the distance sent a chill crawling down his spine. Lyra sat close to the fire, her silver hair glowing faintly in the flickering light. Her eyes never left the window, as if she could feel the monsters moving through the trees. Max growled softly at the door, his small body stiff, his ears twitching. The little dog knew something was coming, something big. Daniel whispered, "They're not leaving, are they?" Lyra shook her head slowly, her voice breaking. "They never leave. They hunt until end." Her words dropped into the silence like stones. Daniel's chest tightened. He had hoped maybe the creatures would give up, move on. But now he understood. They would not stop until they had her. Outside, a branch snapped, then another, heavier. Daniel jumped to his feet, peering through the window. The forest was alive with shifting shadows. Something large moved between the trees, red eyes flashing in the dark. A low growl rolled across the yard, deep and hungry. Lyra clutched the blanket around her, trembling. "They come, now." Daniel's heart pounded, his instincts screaming. He could not fight them here, not in his small house. If they broke through the walls, it would be over in minutes. He had only one choice. They had to run. He grabbed his backpack, stuffing food, water, and a flashlight inside. He looked at Lyra. "Can you walk?" She hesitated, then nodded weakly. "Yes, try." Max barked, circling around them as if ready to lead. Daniel took a deep breath, pushing open the back door. Cold air rushed in, sharp and biting. The forest waited, dark and endless. "Stay close," he whispered. Lyra followed, clutching Max to her chest, her eyes wide with fear. They slipped into the night, their footsteps quick but careful. Behind them, the house creaked as if sighing goodbye. For a few moments, the forest was silent. Then the growls began again, louder, now closer, Daniel urged. "Move faster." Branches whipped against their faces, roots snagged their boots. The forest seemed alive, pushing them deeper into its shadows. Lyra stumbled once, nearly falling. Daniel caught her arm, steadying her. "Don't stop no matter what." Her eyes met his, filled with fear but also trust. She nodded and pushed forward. Max barked sharply, his head turning. Daniel followed his gaze. glowing red eyes, only a few trees away. The first monster lunged, bursting from the dark, its massive body crashed. Through the undergrowth, claws tearing the earth, Daniel fired the shotgun, the blast echoing through the night. The creature howled, stumbling back. But it did not fall. It kept coming, angrier now. "Run!" Daniel shouted. They darted deeper into the woods, their breaths ragged. The monsters gave chase, their growls shaking the ground. Daniel's heart thundered, adrenaline pushing him forward. But he knew they could not outrun them forever. The forest opened into a ravine, a river rushing below. The only way across was a fallen tree, its trunk slick with moss. Daniel pointed. "There! Cross it!" Lyra clutched Max tight, her body trembling as she stepped onto the log. The water roared beneath her, black and merciless. Daniel followed behind, shotgun ready. Halfway across, a monster leapt from the shadows, landing on the riverbank with a snarl. Its claws dug into the ground, its eyes blazing. Daniel aimed and fired again, the blast lighting the night. The creature roared, staggering, but another howl rose behind it. There were more, too many. Lyra reached the other side, nearly. Collapsing on the dirt, Daniel rushed after her, grabbing her arm, pulling her up. Max barked furiously, his tiny body shaking but brave. They scrambled into the trees again, leaving the river behind, but the monsters were still following, their growls never fading. At last they found a cave hidden behind thick vines. Daniel pulled them inside, his chest heaving. He dropped the backpack, leaning against the stone wall. Lyra sank to the ground, Max curling into her lap. For a moment, the only sound was their gasping breaths. Daniel pressed his forehead to the cold stone, his hands shaking. They had escaped for now, but how long until the monsters found them again? He looked at Lyra, who hugged Max tightly, her eyes glistening with tears. Her voice cracked. "Always run. Never end." Daniel's throat tightened. He wanted to tell her they would be safe, that he would protect her, but the truth weighed heavy. He did not know how long he could keep that promise. The shotgun had only a few shells left. The forest was filled with enemies, and dawn was still far away. Then, just as silence settled, a new sound echoed from deeper inside the cave. Not a growl, not a howl. A voice, soft but clear, speaking words Daniel did not understand. Lyra froze, her eyes wide with shock. Daniel raised the shotgun again. They were not alone in the cave. The cave was cold and damp, the walls wet with dripping water. Daniel held the shotgun high, the beam of his flashlight trembling against stone. The sound they had heard still echoed. A voice, soft, strange, not human. Lyra clutched Max tighter, her eyes wide, her breath quick. She whispered, "Not monster. Not them. Someone else?" Daniel frowned, his finger on the trigger. "Then who?" The voice came again from deeper inside, slow and broken, speaking words Daniel could not understand. But Lyra's face changed, her fear mixing with recognition. She whispered, "My people." The beam of light revealed a figure leaning against the rock. It was smaller than the monsters, but taller than a human. Its body thin, its skin pale like Lyra's. Its chest rose weakly, wounds glowing faintly as though burned. It looked at Lyra with eyes that mirrored her own. The figure whispered in their strange tongue, weak but desperate. Lyra dropped to her knees beside it, speaking quickly in broken fragments. Daniel lowered the shotgun slightly, confused. Max sniffed the air, then whimpered, pressing against Daniel's boot. Whatever this creature was, it was not safe. Not strong. Not anymore. After a moment, Lyra turned to Daniel, her voice heavy. "He, like me, escaped too, but hurt." Daniel's chest tightened. "There are more of you?" She nodded slowly, sadness filling her eyes. "Not many. Monsters take, destroy all. Only few run." Her hand shook as she tried to press cloth against the alien's wounds, but the figure coughed, its glow fading, before it could speak. Again a rumble shook the ground outside. A deep growl rolled through the cave entrance. The monsters were still searching, still close. Daniel cursed under his breath. "We can't stay here long. The wounded alien grabbed Lyra's wrist with surprising strength, whispering in her language. Tears filled her eyes as she listened, nodding slowly. Finally, she looked at Daniel, her voice trembling. He say, "Monsters not only hunt and they feed, grow strong with us." Daniel's stomach dropped. "What do you mean?" Lyra's voice cracked. "They eat life, our energy, our blood. They use us to live forever." Daniel felt cold all over. This was not just a hunt. It was survival for them. That was why they would never stop. Lyra whispered again, her words like a confession. "I was chosen, sacrifice, but I ran." Her hands trembled, clutching Max as if she feared he might be taken too. Daniel finally understood the weight she carried. She was never meant to live. She was meant to be food. The wounded alien's body went still, its glow fading like dying embers. Lyra bowed her head, silent tears running down her cheeks. Max whined softly, pressing against her. Daniel put a hand on her shoulder, his voice low. "I'm sorry." She shook her head, whispering, "Always same, always death." But Daniel's jaw tightened, his eyes hardening. "No," he said firmly. "Not always. Not this time." Lyra looked at him, her eyes searching. Daniel gripped the shotgun tighter. "If they want you, they'll have to go through me first." For the first time, something like hope flickered in her eyes, but it was fragile, delicate. She whispered, "You don't know. They never stop. Too many. Too strong." Daniel met her gaze, his voice steady. "Maybe. But I don't stop either." The cave shook again, dust falling from the ceiling. The growls outside grew louder, closer. The monsters had followed. Their trail, their claws scraping against stone. Lyra's breathing quickened. "They hear. They smell us." Daniel pulled her to her feet. "Then we move deeper. Maybe find another way out." They stumbled through narrow tunnels, the flashlight flickering on wet walls. The air grew colder, the path twisting like a maze. Max ran, ahead barking softly, guiding them. Lyra clung to Daniel's arm, her steps weak but determined. Behind them, the monsters entered the cave, their growls echoing like thunder. Shadows stretched across the walls, long and sharp. Daniel fired once, the blast booming, the sound bouncing through stone. The closest creature shrieked, but others pushed forward, relentless. Their red eyes lit the dark like burning coals. "Run!" Daniel shouted again. They plunged deeper into the cave, their breaths ragged, their hearts racing. Lyra stumbled but kept moving, Max yelping to keep them together. The tunnel opened suddenly into a wide chamber, the ceiling glittering with strange crystals glowing faintly blue. The light reflected off Lyra's skin, making her glow brighter, almost radiant. Daniel stared, amazed, but Lyra's face filled with fear. She whispered, "This place, old. My people hide secrets here." Before Daniel could ask, a sharp crack split the chamber. A monster forced its way inside, drool dripping from its fangs, its growl shaking the ground. Daniel raised the shotgun, his last shell loaded. But before he could fire, Lyra stepped forward, her hands trembling. The crystals above responded, glowing brighter, humming with strange energy. Her voice broke but steady. "I can stop them. But truth first." She turned to Daniel, her eyes wet, her voice fragile. "I carry inside me the only light that kills them." Daniel froze, his chest tight. Lyra whispered again, tears sliding down her cheeks. "They hunt me. Because I am their end." The monster roared, leaping forward, claws slashing. Daniel shouted, firing the shotgun. The blast lit the chamber, smoke filling the air. But through the haze, the monster still stood, snarling, ready to strike again. And Lyra's trembling hands began to glow with a light brighter than fire. The chamber shook with the monster's roar. Its claws scraped against the crystal floor, sparks flying. Daniel raised the shotgun, smoke still curling from the last shot. But his hands trembled. He knew there was only one shell left. And behind this beast, more shadows moved. More growls echoed in the tunnels. Lyra stood frozen, her eyes wide, her hands glowing faintly. The light pulsed from her skin, reflecting off the crystal walls. Max barked furiously, standing between her and the monster, his tiny body shaking. With courage, Daniel shouted, "Stay behind me!" But Lyra shook her head, tears in her eyes. She whispered, "No, I must fight." Her voice was soft, yet something inside it carried strength. Daniel glanced at her, shocked. "Fight? With what? You'll be torn apart." But even as he spoke, the crystals around them hummed louder, glowing brighter with each beat of her trembling hands. It was as if the cave itself was answering her. The monster lunged, its jaws snapping. Daniel fired the last shell, the blast slamming into its chest. The beast howled in pain, stumbling back, but it did not fall. Instead, it snarled and charged again. Faster, angrier. Daniel dropped the empty gun, pulling the hunting knife from his belt. Lyra raised her hands, the glow flaring. A beam of pure light burst out, striking the monster's face. The creature shrieked, its flesh burning, its red eyes dimming. For the first time, Daniel saw fear in its gaze, but the effort nearly knocked Lyra to her knees, her breath ragged. Daniel rushed forward, knife in hand, slashing at the beast's side. It roared, claws swinging, the force throwing him across the chamber. He slammed into the rock wall, his vision blurring. Max darted forward, biting the monster's leg, snarling with tiny fury. The beast kicked, sending the dog rolling across the floor, but Max stood again, limping yet unbroken. Daniel groaned, pushing himself up, blood dripping from his lip. He looked at Lyra, who struggled to stand, her glowing hands trembling. "Don't stop," he gasped. "Whatever you're doing, it hurts them." Lyra closed her eyes, focusing, her voice breaking as she whispered in her own language. The crystals above shook, their light gathering around her. The chamber blazed with blue fire. The monster shrieked, its skin peeling away under the glow. It thrashed wildly, claws slamming into the ground, rocks falling from the ceiling. Daniel pulled Max close, shielding him as debris rained down. The air burned with the smell of scorched flesh. At last, the beast collapsed, its body cracking, dissolving into smoke. Silence fell for a heartbeat. Daniel gasped, You did it." But Lyra shook her head, collapsing to her knees, her glow fading, her voice cracked. "No, more come, bigger, stronger." As if summoned by her words, the tunnels rumbled. Dozens of red eyes appeared in the darkness. The growls came like a storm, echoing, deafening, endless. Daniel's heart dropped. There were too many. Even with her power, they could not fight them all. He pulled Lyra into his arms, his voice fierce. "We'll find a way out. Stay with me." But she shook her head weakly, tears on her cheeks. "If I use all, I die." Daniel's chest tightened. "No, there has to be another way." Lyra looked at him with fragile hope, her whisper almost lost in the noise. "Would you stay if I fade?" Daniel swallowed hard, his throat burning. "I won't let you fade. Not while I'm alive." The monsters poured into the chamber, their bodies filling the tunnels, their roars shaking the crystals. Max barked, his tiny frame fearless, standing beside Daniel and Lyra. The boy gripped his knife tighter, ready to face death if he had to. But before the first beast could strike, the crystals above exploded with light. Lyra's body lifted, glowing like a star. Her scream echoed through the cave. Half pain, half fury. Beams of energy shot outward, burning the monsters where they stood. The creatures howled, their bodies disintegrating into ash. Daniel shielded his eyes, holding Max close. The entire cave shook as though the earth itself was breaking apart. When the light faded, the chamber was silent. The ground was littered. With smoking remains, the monsters were gone. Daniel turned quickly. "Lyra!" She collapsed into his arms, her body pale, her glow almost gone. Her breathing was shallow, her lips trembling. Daniel pressed his forehead to hers, whispering desperately, "Stay with me, please. Don't leave." Max whined, curling against her, licking her hand. Lyra's eyes fluttered open, weak but soft. She whispered, "You, not like others. You stay." Daniel's eyes burned with tears, his voice breaking. "I promised, and I keep promises." But then the ground rumbled again, louder, stronger than before. The walls cracked, crystals shattering. From the shadows of the deepest tunnel, a shape emerged, taller, wider, more terrible than all the others. Its roar shook the chamber louder than thunder. Its eyes glowed brighter, its body armored in jagged stone. This was no ordinary hunter. This was the leader, the nightmare that commanded them all. Daniel froze, his knife trembling in his hand. He looked at Lyra, too weak to stand, at Max, growling though half-broken, and he realized this was the final battle, the last stand between them and death. The beast stepped forward, each step cracking the stone beneath. Its shadow swallowed the chamber, and Daniel whispered to himself, "Then we fight, together." The chamber shook like the heart of a dying world. The leader of the monsters stepped forward, each stride cracking the crystal floor. Its body was massive, covered in stone-like armor, its fangs dripping with black venom. Its roar shook Daniel's bones, a sound so deep it felt like the earth itself was screaming. Daniel tightened his grip on the knife, though he knew it was too small, too weak. Max barked, his body low, his growl sharp despite his wounds. And Lyra lay, weak in Daniel's arms, her glow fading, her breath shallow. She whispered, her voice like broken glass, "This one, strongest. He come for me." Daniel's chest burned with rage and fear. He stood, pulling Lyra behind him. "Then he'll have to go through me first," the monster snarled, lowering its head, its red eyes blazing like fire. Daniel charged, knife raised, Max running at his side. The beast swung its claw, smashing the ground. Throwing Daniel back, he hit the wall, pain searing through his ribs. The knife clattered away, lost in the rubble. Max leapt at the monster's leg, teeth sinking into its armored flesh. The creature roared and kicked, sending the little dog flying. Max yelped but scrambled up again, limping, refusing to surrender. Daniel's vision blurred, but he forced himself up. He could not give in, not while they still lived. He rushed to Max, pulling him close, whispering, "You're brave, braver than me." Lyra crawled forward, her glowing hands trembling, her voice cracked. "Only my light can end him." Daniel shook his head, his heart pounding. "No, it'll kill you." She touched his cheek with a weak smile, tears shining in her eyes. "Better me than all worlds, if he wins. No one's safe." Her glow pulsed faintly, as if answering her words. Daniel's throat tightened. "I won't let you do it alone." The monster roared again, stomping closer. The crystals above trembled, pieces falling like rain. Daniel picked up a shard of broken crystal, its edge sharp, glowing faint blue. He held it like a blade, turning back to Lyra. "Then we fight together, until the end." Max barked once, as if agreeing, his small body pressed against them. Lyra's weak laugh cracked through her tears. "Family." Her hands glowed brighter, drawing light from the walls, from the air, from her own life. The chamber filled with energy, humming, burning, alive. The monster lunged, its roar shaking the world. Daniel dashed forward, crystal shard in hand. He slashed at the beast's face, sparks flying. It howled, swinging its massive claw, throwing him down again. But that moment of pain bought Lyra time. She stood, her body trembling, her glow rising like a star, her voice echoed, soft yet powerful. "No more. No more death." The crystals above burst into light, beams raining down. The monster screamed, its armored body cracking under the glow. It thrashed wildly, its claws tearing the ground. Daniel crawled back to her side, holding her upright, whispering, "I'm here. Don't stop." Max leapt again, barking furiously, distracting the beast as the light burned brighter. The pug's small body was a spark of courage against the storm. The monster struck, but Daniel shielded Lyra. Taking the blow across his shoulder, pain ripped through him, but he refused to fall. He held her close, his voice raw. "Do it. Finish this," Lyra screamed, her glow exploding like a rising sun. The entire chamber became white fire, blinding, endless. The monster howled, its body breaking, dissolving into ash. Its roar stretched into silence as its form collapsed into nothing, and at last the darkness was gone. The cave fell still, the crystals dimming. Daniel gasped for breath, his arms shaking. Max lay beside him, exhausted but alive. But when he looked at Lyra, his heart shattered. She was pale, her glow fading completely, her eyes fluttered open, soft and tired. Her lips formed a weak smile. "You stayed." Daniel's tears blurred his vision. "I told you, I never leave." She reached up, touching his face, her hand trembling. "Thank you. For family," she whispered. Her body grew still in his arms, the light inside her gone. Daniel held her close, his chest breaking with grief. Max whimpered, softly pressing against her, refusing to leave her side. The silence stretched, broken only by the dripping water, but then the crystals above shimmered faintly. A soft glow spread across the chamber, gentle and warm. Daniel looked down in shock. Lyra's body glowed once more, not burning but soft like dawn. Her eyes opened slowly, filled with tears and light. She breathed weakly, but she was alive. The power had not destroyed her. It had changed her. The cave's crystals had given back what she gave away. A second chance. Daniel laughed through, tears holding her tight. Max barked joyfully, his curly tail wagging weakly. The three of them sat together as the first rays of sunlight pierced the cave entrance. The night was over. The monsters were gone. Lyra leaned against Daniel, whispering, "Dawn, hope." He nodded, pressing his forehead to hers. "Yeah, hope." Max curled between them, sighing softly. The sun rose higher, golden light filling the cave, and for the first time the world felt safe again, not because the monsters were gone, but because they had each other, and together they were stronger than fear.